Thank you for being here and really supporting your sons, daughters, loved ones, and friends on stage. This concert is a celebration, as I mentioned, of the learning that we're doing all year. I'd like to acknowledge that Notre Dame Regional Secondary School is situated on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. All Catholic schools in the Lower Mainland, including Notre Dame, are involved in seeking truth and reconciliation. The band you see on stage, often chatty and witty group of grade 8s that I've had the pleasure of encouraging this past year. Before we get started with the performance, can we just bow our heads in prayer? Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together for this concert. We give you thanks for the gift of music and also for our performers who have worked hard in the pursuit of artistic excellence and growth through music. We ask that you bless them, their performance, and all present here today. We pray in the name of your Son. Amen. We'll start with a fabulous young Ontario composer. She draws parallels between young springtime birds and young springtime developing musicians. This is called Ready to Fly by Kate Nishimura. is a popular hymn tune. It's also made quite famous by a Finnish composer, Sibelius, who used it, that melody, in his famous orchestral piece, Finlandia. Next piece on our program is starts with a little more of the more fun pieces, if I do so bold, for the grade 8 band. The next piece is called Squonk Blues. The composer, Bob Buckley, refers it to a story of a mythical forest creature. And he doesn't quite say that it is about Sasquatch, but it could be. This is a blues tune, a playful blues tune called Squonk Blues. So with every band here tonight, I am going to reward students that have gone above and beyond a little bit. There are so many fabulous individuals to teach working at Notre Dame, but I do want to recognize excellence, and I do want to recognize people that have really worked hard and have brought a little extra to the table. And so we're going to do that. I want to explain to all the people involved that if you don't get a little certificate, it doesn't mean that anything is wrong, okay? Like, check your report card, right? That's the main information that you get in a course. But I do want to recognize people that really have gone, like I said, above and beyond. Okay. Clarinets, while I do this, can you set up for the last piece? Let's do that, okay? Speaking of clarinets, there was one individual in the clarinet section that said at one point, I really want to play bass clarinet. I really want to add something to the band. I love the sound of the bass clarinet. His name is Rem Funagayama. Did I get that right? I always know my students by their first name. He has really improved this year. Rem, can you come forward? Rem gets a most improved. Most improved. Following 3 awards are people that really have gone, really have excelled. It is rare. We actually have 2 oboes in the grade 8 band. One of them is out of town. Jovia Plata, as soon as she walked into the classroom, wanted to play oboe, and she's had a terrific year. Jovia Plata, can you come forward, please? Jovia Plata gets a really good musicianship award. In our percussion section, Eden Chan has done a lot of leading, and he has a musicianship, a knowledge of rhythm and pulse, and that it really encourages the band and makes the whole band sound better. I'd like to recognize Aidan Chan for musicianship. And lastly, on flute, Matthew Manning, also for musicianship. I could have given an award to the whole clarinet section. There is a band teacher that in grade 7 that teaches grade 7 band, and her main instrument is clarinet, and it really shows. So we have been featuring the clarinet section quite a bit this spring, and we did it in our March Invitational concert, and it's such a fun piece to play, we thought we'd play it again for you. It's called Klezmer Clarinets. First piece does require a bit of an introduction. And I'll just read it to you from the person who commissioned and the band that commissioned this piece. He says, "Music is uniquely human. It is our shared human language. Music can open doors, open minds, and allow us to experience the essence of another culture. Music can also be healing, and this is reflected in the Squamish language, where music and medicine are the same word." Did you know that? As work continues toward reconciling the past with the First Peoples of North America, it also seems necessary to forge a shared path forward based on our commonalities rather than our differences. Music seems like a very good place to start. Efforts are underway to include accurate Indigenous content in schools, and it is important to seek and be granted permission from the creators and caretakers of Indigenous stories, art, and music before including or adapting them for the wider community. This piece began as a conversation with the Squamish Nation and their cultural advisor and performer, Bob Baker, who generously agreed to share songs from his oral tradition. Spirit of the Wolf is the second song he granted Robert Buckley permission to expand into a work for concert band. And there have been multiple performances of these pieces in the Squamish Nation, just east of the Lionsgate Bridge in their community center. And in fact, this band visited the Squamish Cultural Center when we went to Whistler And his band also won a gold medal, as all the bands that visited Whistler did. So connecting things to important topics that we're talking in all of our courses. This is Spirit of the Wolf, original melody by Bob Baker, and helped and reimagined by Robert Buckley. some of you that grew up with CBC may recognize it as the theme song for The Friendly Giant, something that was very popular when I was a kid, many years ago. The next piece is by, not a very common piece. It's called March 1st, and it's when we rehearsed it on March 1st, it provided endless humor, especially on April 1st. But it's written by a composer by the name of Jay Chataway. Jay Chataway is filthy rich. He has made more money from jingles and commercials and film soundtracks than you can imagine. He's one of those guys that's behind the scenes and hires the people that play. He's a very smart man. I met him at the BCMEA Jazz, Honor Jazz Band when I was in high school. Anyway, it's a delightful little march to play called March 1st, and it actually features an alto saxophone by the name of Ethan Dam playing his glockenspiel debut. Everyone should say that glockenspiel. It's a fun name to say. It just means concert bells, but I like saying glockenspiel. So just like the previous band, I want to acknowledge some people in this band. The first two, maybe a little bit controversial. These are awards for being a community member dedicated to teamwork in the grade 9 band. Jared Castro is very influential in this band. He deserves an award for influencing other people to take band and to keep taking band. And he's actually quite funny. I've had quite a funny year having Jared right by my nose. So Jared, can you come up for a recognition, please? Here's the controversial part. As a new teacher to a new school, you often get asked to be reviewed. And the principal said, "Who's here?" Okay. The principal said, you should call down people that kind of like, talk out of turn a little bit. But I'm like, no, I had too much fun with Jarek and Hayden. So Hayden, I'd like you to come to the front, please. You also get a community band member. Over. In all seriousness, they're really good students, and I'm happy to have them. and making music, because I think music does a lot for them socially as well as in the team building part. Moving on, most improved, we have worked a lot. It's really hard when you have one percussionist in a band because they have to do everything. Antonio Sarmiento has definitely done that. Most improved, a concert band 9 and jazz ensemble, which you'll hear tomorrow. Antonio, come forward, please. Also most improved on trumpet, Terrell Tintero. His range and his flexibility have just gone leaps and bounds since rejoining the band in late September. So I want to acknowledge that. Terrell, can you come to the front? Next performer is just a bit of a sponge, a musical sponge. He plays tuba in this band. He plays electric bass in the jazz band. And he came to me in September, and I was listening to him, and I was like, I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And then I realized he was playing everything an octave too high. So he's had a whole year trying to play in a lower octave where tuba is supposed to play. And he deserves a lot of credit for that, because that was like, what? And you got to hear him tomorrow, because he's playing everything tomorrow. Adrian Diaz, can you come in front, please? Most improved. Lastly, I want to recognize the musicianship award. This particular alto saxophone, I could, when we went to Whistler, one of the adjudicators said, "Your first instrument is alto saxophone, right?" And I said, "Strong." And he's like, "Interesting, your alto saxophone section is really, really strong." So this was hard, because I could give one to all of you. But Christopher Laxon deserves some extra recognition. Christopher, can you come in front? There's some fans in the house. Good. Last piece the Grade 9 band is going to be playing is Cantina Band, which is from, of course, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Yeah. It's not even May the 4th. So this you'll recognize it. We just upped the tempo this morning to make it sound closer to the original. It's a swing tune that George Lucas asked John Williams to write a swing tune for the big scene. You probably know it, where they're trying to rent services. As you can tell, I'm a real Star Wars guy. Yeah, and anyway, I wrote this out, actually. Meaning an establishment where Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi were looking to hire a spacecraft from Han Solo. Yeah, too much fun. This is Cantina Bed. So as you can tell, this is the grade 10 and 11 band. 10 and 11 concert winners, we often call them. They're also a gold-winning group from the Whistler Festival. They don't give out gold medals very easily at that festival. And it's because of the work ethic that the school has, and because we've had excellent teachers performing as well, that these people have enjoyed. So, but it is a tribute to the students. Robert Buckley was a student once before as well. He sort of wins the prize of having the most pieces on this program, and it's no accident. He understands the culture of bands. He actually grew up playing in school and community bands in Vancouver. And he writes for things like Cirque du Soleil, and writes music for FIFA World Cups and Commonwealth Games and things like that. But his main love is actually concert band. And he wrote this piece for a band in, I think they're in Quebec City, but it was definitely in Quebec, and they were celebrating their 150th anniversary. And that version is much more difficult than this version. This is a simplified version of a suite, of a symphony that he wrote. And it's all Quebec folk music. The first piece and the third piece in particular are really popular pieces of Quebec folk culture, including Blanche comme la neige and Viva la Canadienne. How'd I do, all you French scholars out there? Okay. So this is Quebec Folk Rhapsody. last piece is truly, he really is a great composer. Like he really, he writes a lot of music. He writes a lot of music for bands and choirs, but mostly bands. Thank you. That was, yeah. The next piece we're going to play is a march. It's called Mighty Might. It's unique in that the introduction, the first strain is in a minor key. Most people, when they think of marches, they think of major and happy. This is happy, but in a minor key. And it's got a lot of melody in the lower voices, bass, sax, trombone, euphonium. So there's a lot for them to dig their teeth into. So let's introduce you to Mighty Might. There's some pieces that involve that fantastic instrument that's on the main floor, the marimba, and we want to show that off. It involves some time between movements just to take care of it. This piece is by Spanish composer Henri Granados. It was originally scored for piano and voice in the Spanish language. So when you hear a melody, it was written for voice. And the words for the first movement, these songs are all about love, okay? And the first movement, the words are translated, of course, because my Spanish is bad. It is in vain, my boy, that you go on talking, for there are things to which I never answer in song. Tra-la-la, no matter how many times you ask, tra-la-la, you cause me no grief, and I will not cease to sing. Tra-la-la. And I guess to that I answer, you go girl. In the musicians' parts, they have something called in Italian, because that's the language we speak in music, andantino con dolore, which means, according to the arranger, with pain, sorrow, grief, and misery. And I hope I haven't caused any of those emotions in the grade 12 band this year playing this piece, because this piece is a bit of a challenge. Lots of solos. Text in this is, ah, man of my life, no, you haven't died. How could I continue to exist if this were true? I want, irrationally, to kiss your mouth. I want, truly, to cast my lot with yours. Ah, with yours. Ah, still I rant and dream. My man no longer exits. All about me, the world in weeping and sad. For my sorrow, there is no consolation. Even dead and cold, my man will be mine. Ah, always mine. Or with pain, sorrow, grief, and misery. As the arranger says, I think that's a little more succinct. This is the second movement of the Tonadille Suite. obviously these pieces have lots of tempo changes and soloistic parts. And it's always nice to play a transcription. The arranger, Ralph Ford, conducted these pieces with a small chamber ensemble, and was so influenced through that experience at Troy University. He arranged this for a larger school ensemble like this one. Next one is quite simply a romp in the key of B flat major. This needs a bit of an introduction. The next piece is inspired by Horatio Spafford. Spafford wrote a text after losing his 4 daughters to a collision between 2 ships in the 19th century. Sounds like the piece we just played was from the 19th century. And it happened in 1873. A hymn writer, Philip Bliss, wrote music for the text that was found from Horatio Spafford. When Bliss passed away in a similar accident, involved transportation, involved a train, somebody found an unfinished hymn which had the text, "I know not what awaits me, God kindly veils my eyes." In 1989, a highly educated and religious David R. Holsinger arranged Philip Bliss's work this piece is based on, the melody, into this piece for wind ensemble you're going to hear tonight. It's grounded in the key of D flat major, which is a very dark key, but it's filled with courage and optimism. So this is on a hymn song of Philip Bliss by David Holsinger. Tricycle. The reason it's called Tricycle is it was written for the collaboration of 3 schools coming together and performing together, hence tri, or 3. And not coincidentally, there are 3 musical themes that come together. They're played individually, and then they all come together at the end. It's also, it's a playful work, and it's meant to be happy and celebratory, much like your grad year. It's also probably the percussion debut of Notre Dame of an instrument called sandblocks. Now, these sandblocks are the same sandblocks that are in your workshop, except we use them as a musical instrument. And you'll never think of drywalling the same way after you hear Tricycle by Andrew Boysen Jr.
playing tonight, which are highlights from a movie that you may know called How to Train Your Dragons by John Powell and arranged by Johnny Vincent. Many of us here have been wanting to perform this piece for a very long time, and so we hope that you enjoy the performance. But before we perform, I have a little speech for Mr. Passmore. On behalf of the students in the band program, we would like to thank you, Mr. Passmore, for the effort and support that you have dedicated to ensuring the best out of all of us. Many of us were very uncertain about what was in store for the program this year, but now that we are here performing in our final concert, I'm certain that we all have obtained memories and experiences that we will never forget. Whether it be through the concerts, retreats, trips, or even everyday rehearsals, we all enjoyed what you brought to the community here. We are grateful for all of the hard work that you not only put into performing the music that we rehearse, but through the hard work that you put for the band program in its entirety. And so, you were able to uphold the community here in the band program and bring together connections that none of us will take for granted. We are grateful for having you push us to be our best every day, not only within the band program, but beyond it. And so, once again, on behalf of all the students in the band program, through the amount of times we go through page 4, long-term 1A, the jokes you make in class, and the life that you bring to the program. Thank you, Mr. Passmore. Please give a round of applause.